Hey everybody, this is Mr. Ainsworth. Let's greet each other properly. Good morning. Hey, listen, we're going to get into powers of 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and we're also going to talk about how to take the square root of these numbers and the cube root and the fourth root and the fifth root and the sixth root and so on. So have your calculators nearby. Have a scratch piece of paper if you need it, unless you're going to be using a calculator. And so if you don't have a TI-84 or some kind of scientific calculator, pause the video and distribute the calculators, okay? But if you're ready, here we go. The first thing we're going to do in order to get good at roots is that we have to know our powers, okay? And so what we're going to do is we're going to generate all the powers of 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 first. All right, we're going to practice them. We're going to memorize them, okay? But first of all, we got to generate them. That means we got to come up with them. And then secondly, we got to practice them, and we're going to, of course, memorize them after we practice, because practice develops memorization. So here we go. All right. So powers of 2 first, going in a vertical fashion here from top down. Powers of 2. All right. 2 to the first power is 2. 2 to the second power is 2 times 2, which is equal to 4. 2 to the third power is 2 times 2 times 2, which is 4 times 2, or a total of 8. Or you can do this in your head, of course. And later on, when the numbers get big, we can use a calculator. But right now, you can probably do it in your head. Okay, so 2 to the fourth. Well, 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Well, that's 8 times 2, or 16. Okay, you got to multiply the previous one by 2. Okay, so times 2 here, times 2 here, times 2 here. So 8 times 2 is 16, times 2 is 32. This is either called powers of 2 or the doubling. 16 times 2 is 32. All right, once again, you multiply that by 2. All right, it's the powers of 2 sequence or doubling sequence. All right, 32 times 2 is 64, so 2 to the fourth is 64, and you can keep track on your fingers if you like. All right, one more time, we just multiply that by 2. All right, if you double 64, you got 128. Once again, times 2. Make sure you're annotating your notes here as we do this here, because that's what you're going to be doing mentally, all right? You're doubling or you're multiplying by 2. And if you double 128, well, let me see, 2 times 100 is 200, and 2 times 28 is 56, so 256. All right? And double that, times 2 again. Double 200, you get 400, or double 250, you get 500. Double 6, you get 12, so it's 512. All right? Double 512, let me see, 2 times 500 is 1,000. 2 times 12 is 24, so it's 1,024. Again, times 2. You double 1,000, you get 2,000. You double 24, you get 48, so 2,048. Once again, times 2. So 2 to the 11th is 2,048, and you can verify that too. Enter in 2. Use your exponent button right here. Take it to the power of 11. Press the enter button, and you'll see 2,048. If you want to check 2 to the 10th, you enter it in, and you can check that to be 1,024. So you could use your calculator if you like, but I suggest you use your head first and develop the brain between your ears, which is the most advanced calculator on the planet, believe it or not. You may not believe that, but that's actually true. Okay, there's no computer on the planet that can compute the high level that we can on a regular basis. Okay? Right, now powers of 3. 3 to the first is 3. 3 squared means 3 times 3, or 9. Come on, computer, catch up with me here. Sorry, so that's 9 here. 3 times 3 times 3 is 3 cubed, or 9 times 3, or 27. Okay, now if you can do this all in your head, you don't have to step it out like I'm doing it here, but I'm a teacher and I step things out, and I'm teaching here, so I try to put a few steps in here and there. All right, but eventually you're going to be doing this in your head. 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27. And this one here, 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 is 3 to the fourth, right? Or you can take 27 times 3, which is 81. Or you can do this. You can go 9 times 9. Well, guess what? That's 81. Okay, you can group up. You can pair them up. Now, if you want to multiply 81 times 3, that's 243. All right, 3 times 80 is 240. 3 times 1 is 3, 243. So one more time, check this out. This is the tripling sequence. So times 3 here, times 3 here, times 3 here, times 3 here. Annotate your notes, all right? And I didn't say that in the beginning, but we always get your red pen out. So if you don't have one, get your red pen out and annotate your notes. All right, be a good note taker and then practice like mad because, again, perfect practice makes perfect, and it helps you memorize these things which you want to be able to do. I have all of these memorized. And the only reason why is because I've been practicing a lot. Not that I'm a genius, because I'm clearly not. I'm not an Einstein, but I do practice a lot because I teach it every day. So if you practice a lot, you'll get it down as well. Okay? Also remember, too, this is a video, right? So on all videos, okay, I want you guys to do the following. I want you to pause when you need to, all right, and play when you're ready. So pause and play, and also use that rewind button, all right? Use the videos effectively. Pause, play, rewind as you need it, and go at your own pace. Let me write that down, too. Go at your own pace. Now, if you're in a class setting here, all right, then you go at the class's pace, all right? But if you're at home, you go at your own pace. Pause, play, and rewind as you need it. I've learned many things over the internet through watching videos, or also at home too. And through the use of videos, we have the ability to do this, pause, play, and rewind. So take advantage of it and use it wisely and use it properly, and you'll be amazed at what you can learn, okay? Even when the instructor's not there. Like I'm not there, I'm virtual, okay? But let's keep going here. We got 4 to the first is 4. 4 squared means 4 times 4, or 16. 4 cubed means 4 times 4 times 4, which is 16 times 4, or 64. And once again, you could be doing this. You can go 4 to the third power. Well, look at that. It gives you 64. All right? Times 4 gives you 256. Why? Well, we have 4 times 4 times 4 times 4. Okay, that's 16 times 16. All right, and that's 256. If you know your squares, 16 times 16, or 16 squared, is 256. Once again, to get to the next number, you multiply it by 4. Multiply it by 4. Take 64, multiply it by 4 to get to the next one. All right, you can do this all on your calculator. All you have to do, watch one more time. You enter in 4, all right, times 4, 16, right? Times 4, 64. Times 4, 256, all right? 4 to the fourth power, 256. Learn how to use your exponent button, learn how to use your calculator, and then practice like crazy, and you'll get these down. All right. Let's see here. Powers of 5. What do we have? Well, we have 5. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 cubed is 5 times 5 times 5, which is, oops, got to write that correctly here, times 5. There you go. And that's 25 times 5. Think 5 quarters, think money, and you get $1.25, right, or 125. You can verify that too, right? So, enter in 5. Okay, times 5 is 25. Times 5 again is 125. Times 5, see, 5 times 100 is 500. 5 times 25 is 125. 500 and 125 is 625. Boom, right there. All right? Or you can do it this way, 5 times 5 times 5 times 5, which is 25 times, well, that's 25, and 25 squared is 625. I have that memorized too. So once again, you multiply it by 5, multiply it by 5, multiply it by 5. All right, powers of 5. Well, what are the powers of 6? Well, let's see. Powers of 6. 6 to the first is 6. 6 squared is 6 times 6 is 36. Times 6. 6 times 30 is 180. 6 times 6 is 36. 180 and 36 is 216. Or you can do it like this. You get 36 here. Times 6 is 36 here. And that gives you 216. And if you don't believe me, well, here we go. All right, so let's clear it out. Enter in 6, right? Times 6 entered, times 6 entered, and you get 216. So once again, powers of 6. So times 6 to get to the next one, times 6 to get to the next one. Annotate your notes, okay? And once again, if you didn't understand any of this, well, you got the rewind button available, and go ahead and use it. And then go back and review it before you go on to the next, and then practice like mad. Again, practice, all right, to memorize. That's the only way you can get good. And if you get good at your powers, well, guess what? Cube rooting is the inverse operation. It's going backwards. All right? So you got to get good at this first. That's why we're doing this. Now, on the back side are the cube roots, square roots, cube roots, fourth roots, and so on. All right. Now, also keep your calculator off to the side, clear it out, and get it ready. All right, so now what we have is we have the square root of 1. Well, the square root of 1 is 1. Why is that? Well, why? Well, because 1 squared equals 1, right? And if you don't believe me, take the square root of 1. So enter in second x squared, which gives you the square root symbol. Enter in 1 and hit the enter button. Square root of 1 is 1 because 1 squared is 1. The square root of 4 should be 2, right? Well, because 2 squared is 4. So this is equal to 2. Why? Because 2 squared equals 4. Square root of 9 is 3, because 3 squared equals 9. All right? I'm just giving you the why part so you understand it. Okay? Square rooting is not about dividing it by 2. All right, and let's continue here. We got root 16. Now, the square root of 16 is 4. Why? Because 4 squared gives you 16. See, if you know your squares, you know your roots. Okay, they're related. Square root of 16 is 4 because 4 times 4 is 16, or 4 squared is 16. Square root of 25 is 5. Why? Because 5 squared is 25. Now, remember this, and make sure you're putting down the reasons why, too, because if you understand the square roots, then you understand the cube roots and the fourth roots and the fifth roots and so on. So make sure you take detailed notes because it will all make sense in a little bit here. The square root of 36 is 6. Why? Because 6 squared equals 36. Okay, the square root of 49 is 7. Why? Because 7 squared equals 49. The square root of 64 is 8. Why? 8 squared is 64. By the way, if you're not good at the arithmetic, you could be using your calculator. The square root of 64, you go second x squared, which is the root. All right? Yeah, you have to hit the blue button to access the square root. You enter in 64, hit the enter button, boom, you get 8. Why? Because if you take 8 and you square it, you get, I meant 8 squared, I didn't hit the right button. 8 squared, well, that's 64. Hit the wrong button earlier there. So, let's continue here. Square root of 81 is 9. Why? 9 squared equals 81. Square root of 100 is 10. Why? 10 squared gives you 100. The square root of 121 is 11. Why? 11 squared equals 121. And like I said, if you don't have all these memorized like I do, use your calculator. All right? Don't just sit there and excuse me, let's go backwards here, and sit there and copy in everything. You know, figure it out. Use your calculator. You have one right next to you. All right, so interact with this, all right? You either do it by hand or use a calculator to generate all these numbers. So square root of 169, so the square root of 169. If you don't know what it is, type it in, figure it out. Look at that, it's 13. Why? 13 squared gives you 169, see? I know these by heart, but do you? 14 squared is 196, so I know the square root of 196 is 14. Why? Because 14 squared equals 196. Ooh, forgot this one. 13 squared equals 169, and so on. If you know your squares, all right, you know your roots. The square root of 225 is 15. Why? 15 squared is 225. Square root of 256 is 16. Why? Because 16 squared is 256. Square root of 289 is 17. Why? Because 17 squared is 289. Now, like I said, this is a video, right? And what you guys should do is pause and play and rewind. Pause when you need to. Like if you don't know what this is, pause it and then figure it out. Let's take the square root of 324. Okay, enter it in. Hit the enter button. It's 18. All right, and then check it. 18 square it. You get 324. So 18 squared gives you 324. If you don't know these by heart, you got to get them down. You got to practice and memorize. Practice. All right, to memorize. Make note cards if you want to. You know, do whatever it takes. I used to make note cards all the time to get things down. I even have my boy do it. Okay, the square root of 361 is 19. Why? Because 19 squared equals 361. Square root of 400 is 20. Why? Because 20 squared equals 400. Now, make sure you write all these things down. Practice to memorize. Make note cards, all right, to help you out. All right, and that's very easy. You put this on the front side, and you put the answers on the back side. You put this on the front side. You put this on the back side. Okay, and then you practice like crazy. Make note cards if you want. If you don't know them, which you probably don't, from let's say probably here on down, well then you better practice, right? Okay, let's go up to the top and let's talk cube roots. Now the cube roots, you got to know your cubes. All right, the cube root of 1 is 1. Why? Because if you take 1 and cube it, you get 1. That should be a simple one. The cube root of 8. Okay, what number cube gives you 8? What number cube gives you 8? You should know that because back up here we did it. Let's take a look at our third powers. Look at this, 2 cubes, it gives you 8, right? Well, the cube root of 8 gives you back to 2. So if you know your cubes, then you know your cube roots. So since 2 cubed gives you 8, the cube root of 8 is 2. Why? Because if you cube 2, you get 8. All right, what's the cube root of 27? What number cube gives you 27? Well, let's go back up top. What number cubed gives you 27? Well, 3 cubed gives you 27. So the cube root of 27 gives you 3. That's why I started off with the squares, the cubes, and so on. So, or the power of 2, 3, and 4. So since we know that 3 cubed gives you 27, the cube root of 27 is 3. If you know your powers, you know your roots. That's why I started off with the powers first. Okay, the cube root of 64. What number cubed gives you 64? Let's see, 4 cubed gives you 64, so the cube root of 64 gives you 4. Now, how would you figure this out on the calculator? Well, let's talk about that too. Let's clear it out. Now, the cube root is the 1/3 power. Okay? The cube root is the 1/3 power. And so if you want to figure out the cube root of 64, you got to take 64 and raise it to the 1/3 power. So 1 divided by 3. That's the cube root, and you get 4. This is actually 64 to the 1/3 power, and that's 4. Let's go back up here to the 27. This is actually 27 to the 1/3 power, right? So let's take a look at it. 27, let's raise it to the 1/3 power. All right, boom. It equals 3. That's why my answer is 3 up top. The cube root is 125. You take 125, raise it to the 1/3 power. Okay, that's the cube root, and you get 5. So this is 125 raised to the 1/3 power. That equals 5. Why? Because if you cube 5, you get 125. All right, so if you know your cubes, you know your cube roots. Remember that. They're related. Let's talk about the fourth roots. The fourth root of 1 is 1. Why? If you take 1 to the 4th, you get 1. 1 to any power is 1. Because 1 times 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. All right, what's the fourth root of 16? Well, what number raised to the 4th power gives you 16? Well, let's see. Let's look back up top. Let me see. 4th power. 5 to the 4th is 625. 4 to the 4th is 256. Oh, 2 to the 4th equals 16. So the fourth root of 16 has got to be 2. Okay. So we've got 2 to the 4th is 16. So the answer's got to be 2. Now that's the same thing as taking 16 to the 1/4 power, and you get 2. Let's verify that. 16 raised it to the 1/4 power this time because the fourth root is the 1/4 power, and you get 2. But you got to be thinking like this. The fourth root of 81 is a number such that if you take it to the 4th power, you get 81. What would that be? What number raised to the fourth power gives you 81? Well, here the fourth power is right through here, right? 3 to the fourth gives you 81, so the fourth root of 81 gives you 3. So 3 to the fourth, since 3 to the fourth equals 81, the answer has to be 3. Why? Because if you take 81, raise it to the 1/4 power. Let me clear this here. Okay, I got to raise it to the 1/4 power. There we go. I get 3. Why? Because 3 raised to the fourth equals 81. That's the reason why. And that's why I want your calculator right next to you, so you can use it to your advantage. All right. This is 256 raised to the 1/4 power. What does that equal? Well, what number raised to the fourth power equals 256? Well, let's see. Let's figure this out. Let's go up to the top. The fourth powers are all right through here. 2 to the fourth gives you 16. 3 to the fourth gives you 81. 4 to the fourth equals 256. 4. It's got to be 4. The fourth root of 256 gives you 4. Since 4 to the fourth equals 256, my answer's got to be 4. One more time. Let's figure this out. 256 raised to the 1/4 power. Just do it on your own so you can see it. You get 4. The answer's 4 there. Why? Because 4 to the fourth equals 256. Take a look at fifth roots. The fifth root of 1 is 1. Why? Because 1 to the fifth equals 1. Now, the fifth root of 32 is a number such that if you take it to the fifth power, you get 32. So what number raised to the fifth power gives you 32? Let's look at the fifth powers. 2 to the fifth gives you 32. So the fifth root of 32 gives you back to 2. So I know this has got to be 2. Why? Because 2 to the fifth equals 32. What number raised to the fifth power gives you 243? Well, I know 243 is the power of 3. It's right here. 3 to the fifth equals 243. So the fifth root of 243 gives you back to 3. It's the inverse operation here. So the answer's got to be 3. Let's check it. 243 raised to the 1/5 power. Okay, that's the fifth root, and that equals 3. Let's take a look at the sixth root of 1 is 1. Why? 1 to the 6 equals 1. But what number raised to the 6th power gives you 64? That's got to be a power of 2, so let's take a look at that. 6th power is right here. 2 to the 6 equals 64, so the 6th root of 64 gets you back to 2. So since 2 to the 6 equals 64, the 6th root of 64 gives you 2. Let's check that. 64 raised to the 1/6 power is 2. There we go. So once again, you just have to get practice and get memorized here. Practice to memorize, and you get used to it. You have to know all of these first. You have to know your powers first in order to be good at this. So you got to do this first, practice. You can easily use note cards here. I would highly suggest you put this, let's say, on the front, all right, and the answer on the back. All right, front and the answer on the back. It's really easy. Front here, the answer on the back. Do this at home, make a ton of note cards, randomize them, mix them up, practice. Again, perfect practice makes perfect. Perfect practice, all right, makes perfect. Let's write that down, makes perfect here. And the only way you're going to get better is by practicing with me and also at home. But don't just rely upon me, because practice in class is not enough. You got to do some home practice, okay? That's why there is something called homework, okay? So do your best, all right, and practice at home, and I'll see you in my next lesson. This is Mr. Ainsworth signing off.